I had always loved the solitude of the wilderness, which is why I jumped at the chance to work in the fire watch tower. The tower was perched on a hilltop, surrounded by dense forest stretching endlessly in every direction. The job was simple: keep an eye out for any signs of wildfire and report them immediately. For someone like me, who cherished the silence and the company of nature, it was perfect. The first few weeks were uneventful. I spent my days scanning the horizon, reading books, and listening to the sounds of the forest. The nights were a different story. The forest came alive after dark with a symphony of nocturnal creatures. But it was also when I felt the most alone. One night, as I was about to turn in, I noticed a flicker of light in the distance. I grabbed my binoculars and focused on the source. It was a small fire, deep in the forest, but it didn't seem to be spreading. I grabbed the radio and reported it to the ranger station. They assured me they'd send someone to check it out first thing in the morning. Satisfied, I went to bed. But sleep didn't come easily. I kept hearing strange noises outside the tower, like twigs snapping and leaves rustling. I told myself it was just animals, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, watching me. The next day, the ranger called back. They had found the remnants of a campfire, but no sign of anyone around. They warned me to stay vigilant and report any unusual activity. I assured them I would, but the unease from the night before lingered. The following nights grew progressively more disturbing. I would wake up to the sound of footsteps circling the tower, but every time I looked out, there was nothing there. One night, I heard whispering. It was faint, almost indistinguishable from the wind, but it was definitely human. I called out, demanding to know who was there, but received no answer. During the day, everything seemed normal. The forest was calm, and I even spotted deer grazing near the tower. But as soon as the sun set, the feeling of being watched returned. I began to dread the nights, sleeping in short, restless bursts, always waking at the slightest sound. One particularly cold and moonless night, the whispering returned, louder this time. It was coming from directly below the tower. Heart pounding, I grabbed my flashlight and shone it through the gaps in the floorboards. Nothing. The whispering stopped abruptly, and the silence that followed was almost more unsettling. I decided I needed to confront whatever was tormenting me. I grabbed my rifle, threw on my coat, and descended the ladder. The forest was eerily quiet as I reached the ground. I stood still, listening, trying to catch any hint of movement. The whispering started again, this time coming from deeper in the woods. Summoning all my courage, I followed the sound. The further I ventured, the louder the whispering became, and though I couldn't make out any words, I stumbled through the underbrush, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, the whispering stopped. I was plunged into an oppressive silence that seemed to swallow even the sounds of my breathing. And then I saw it. A figure standing a few yards ahead, barely visible in the dim light. It was tall and thin, its face obscured by shadow. My flashlight flickered, and in that brief moment of darkness, the figure vanished. When the light returned, it was gone, leaving no trace it had ever been there. I ran back to the tower, my heart racing. As I climbed the ladder, I felt something brush against my leg. I looked down, but there was nothing. I locked the door behind me and huddled in the corner, clutching my rifle. Morning brought a semblance of safety, but I knew I couldn't stay another night. I radioed the ranger station and told them everything. They promised to send someone to relieve me, but it would be a few hours before they arrived. Those hours felt like days as I sat in the tower, every creak and rustle putting me on edge. Finally, I saw the ranger's truck approaching. Relief washed over me as I climbed down and met him. I recounted my experiences, and he listened intently, his expression grave. He admitted that strange things had been reported in this area before, but they had always been dismissed as overactive imaginations or the effects of isolation. As we drove away, I glanced back at the tower, standing tall and silent against the backdrop of the forest. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had been out there was still watching, waiting for its next victim. I never returned to the fire watchtower, but the memories of those nights stayed with me. A constant reminder of the terror that lurks in the heart of the wilderness. And sometimes when I'm alone in my room, I still hear the whispering, faint and distant, but unmistakable. If you like this story and more like it, please subscribe and hit the like button.